Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a long time coming, but Sniper Elite 5 has finally arrived. Carl's quest to single-handedly win the war by blowing off Nazi testicles continues. But the big question is, was it worth the wait? Before we find out, I just want to say a huge thank you to Rebellion for sending me a review copy of the game. I truly appreciate it. Also, seeing as Rebellion provided me with a key for free, I will be buying a copy of the game to give away anyway to one of you lucky folk. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to find out how you can be in with a chance of winning a copy of Sniper Elite 5 for your chosen system. Now, on to the review. So just like its predecessors, Sniper Elite 5 is a third-person World War II stealth shooter taking place in 1944 France. Carl, the main protagonist, has been inserted to disrupt the Axis defences in preparation for the Allied invasion of Normandy. During his mission, he becomes trapped behind enemy lines in Nazi-occupied France. After meeting up with an old friend, he soon discovers secret Nazi plans that could change the course of the war, and with the help of the French resistance, it's your mission to save the day. So it's your typical standard Sniper Elite setup really, though in Sniper Elite 5 they take a much more cinematic approach with more actual cutscenes that were few and far between in previous Sniper Elites. It's also been refreshing to see Rebellion flesh out Carl a little bit more, but I won't go into any specifics as I don't want to spoil the story. The campaign takes place over 8 missions, each offering a different semi-open world sandbox, allowing you to tackle your objectives in multiple ways, be it sneaking around, silently sabotaging equipment, or running in guns blazing, shooting anything that moves. No matter your playstyle, you can tackle each mission however you see fit, with many different routes to take and playstyles to try. You're able to rid the world of Nazis together with a friend, as the entire campaign can also be played in online co-op. The levels in Sniper Elite 5 are huge, probably about 50% bigger than that of Sniper Elite 4. They may not look it when you bring the map up, but when you're running across the levels you can really feel it. The levels are nicely varied and offer very different locations, from open countryside to huge steelwork plants to cities devoured by fire and ruin. The level designs themselves are impressively diverse, always offering multiple routes to take. If you don't fancy travelling up that road filled with enemies, there will always be alternate and much safer routes for you to find. There is more traversal in Sniper Elite than ever before now, so keep your eyes peeled as you'll likely find yourself a nice shortcut. Exploration is the name of the game, and with these huge maps, doing so is even more rewarding. There are nooks and crannies and crawl spaces and bits and pieces hidden everywhere, so it really is worth exploring. There are plenty of collectibles to find, but this time around the collectibles aren't just there for the sake of having collectibles, they actually provide relevant information to your mission. You might pick up some intel that tells you there's an armory nearby, or a heavily armed checkpoint up ahead, or maybe a section of the fence is currently undergoing repair. These snippets of intel are then added directly to the map, and you can use this information when deciding on how best to tackle the mission. And you don't just collect intel by picking up documents. There are many instances where you can eavesdrop on conversations to receive intel. Sneaking up on some guards who are talking about how they feel so much safer now because some armoured cars are finally up and running. This then adds the general location of the armoured car to the map, giving you a heads up. This intel would have been missed if I just ran in and killed these guys. So listening in on enemy conversations can give you a great advantage when planning your approach.
Keine Ahnung, was mit dem anderen ist, aber einer wird gerade beim Versanddepot getestet. Als hätten kleine Kinder ein neues Spielzeug gekriegt.
Tackling a mission can be done stealthily with an array of different options available to you. You can apply silencers to most of your weapons, hide in tall grass, whistle to attract enemies, throw bottles to distract enemies, only kill who you need to, use loud environmental noises to mask the sound of your shot so no one can hear it, be it with generators, sabotaged vehicles or planes flying overhead. Binoculars will be your best friend, allowing you to tag enemies to keep track of their whereabouts and to tell you the distance to your target to help you nail that long shot. If the enemy discovers your position, you're able to relocate. As long as you can stay out the enemy's line of sight, you'll be able to lose them. There is also now a new focus mode that lets you see nearby enemies through surfaces. So there are many ways to play stealthily if that's your thing. And the stealth in this game works incredibly well. Or maybe you're more the run and gun player who likes to kill everyone and blow everything up. Or maybe you like to take up a nice elevated position, set traps to protect your rear and snipe everyone from distance. This game can be played however you like. You have an array of equipment in your arsenal to help you on your mission, including lethal and non-lethal traps, various healing items. You also get timed explosives and a new decoy that can be used to attract enemy fire and tag enemies that shoot it. As you explore the maps, you'll also find crowbars and bolt cutters that can be used to break padlocks, pry open crates, sabotage equipment, cut holes in fences, disable spotlights and much more. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled, as they can make your life much easier and really add to the different ways of tackling a mission.
Perimeter breached.
There aren't really any new enemy types in the game. In fact, you could argue that there is now less than in previous entries, with the spotters that fire flare guns to radio men that call for reinforcements. Spotters are still in the game, just not in the campaign, and radio men have been replaced by alarms that are situated all around the maps. Once alerted, enemies will run up and sound the alarm, which will attract all nearby enemies. And if you do not disable the alarm within a certain amount of time, reinforcements will arrive. These alarms can be booby-trapped or disabled by running up to it to break it or shooting it from distance, and it's a pretty good idea to take them out first if you plan on going loud. Snipers now are much more deadly and have a chance to apply a bleed effect which will drain your life until you use a bandage, making them much deadlier, which is perfect. The gloriously gruesome kill cam makes its return and is now better than ever. Watching the bullet fly through the air before impacting a vital organ never gets old, for me at least. And now with the added ability for secondaries and sidearms to trigger the kill cam as well, so if you are like me and you cannot get enough of the kill cam, you will be seeing a lot more of it. At the same time, you have the option to lower how often the kill cams trigger or turn them off altogether. You are now even able to speed up or slow down kill cams on the fly, and the explosive kill cams really do pack a punch now. The length of the campaign will vary depending on several factors like which difficulty you're playing on, how much you intend to explore, your play style. But I finished the entire game on hard difficulty, finding all workbenches and completing all optional objectives, and it took me around the 25 to 30 hour mark. And that's just the single player. If you plan on running through on easy, completing only the primary objectives, the game will not last you anywhere near as long as that. Vehicles in the game now require a bit more effort to take out. You can't just simply shoot the fuel tank on a truck anymore, and tanks can be especially tricky. No longer can you just shoot the driver then shoot the gunner to disable a tank. You need to get behind it and hit the weak spot with explosives multiple times or pummel it with armor-piercing ammo. The third-person gunplay in Sniper Elite 5 feels as great as it always has, but you are now able to aim down the sights while using SMGs and pistols. The first-person aiming, whilst not really my thing, comes in very useful for nailing those silenced pistol headshots. I haven't used the first-person aim too much, but in the time I have spent with it, it feels responsive and seems to be implemented well. Quite a few people asked for a first-person mode, and while this is only usable when aiming, it's a nice compromise and should please players of first-person shooters. Crouch running, first introduced in Sniper Elite 4, has been removed, and whilst I initially really wanted that feature back, after a while I became quite accustomed to it and it isn't too bad. In fact, I actually grew to quite like it this way because it slows the game down a little. In Sniper Elite 4 I was pretty much crouch running all over the shop, but here the devs have decided to give Carlsbad a bit of a rest. Enemies now kind of react accordingly when being shot in the limbs. Shooting an enemy in the arm will cause them to limp away holding their arm and forces them to switch to their sidearm, so that's a really fantastic addition. You can now discover and unlock new starting locations for when you replay the missions, and there are many other improvements to the game that one may not notice at first.
Staging area secured. This will be a good place to start from for other operations.
For example, when enemies notice a generator is backfiring because you sabotaged it, they'll now head over, wrench in hand, and repair the generator. Or the fact that you can now slide down ladders, or roll whilst prone, or the new active reload that lets you reload faster if you press the reload button again at the correct moment.
Damn, that's the alarm.
There are 6 ammo types in the game now, ranging from armor piercing, which is great for destroying tanks, all the way to non-lethal ammo. All of these ammo types are available for all guns in the game now as well. Speaking of non-lethal, there are now non-lethal takedowns in the game, so if you are feeling especially merciful, you can knock out enemies instead of outright killing them. Enemies that are knocked out will remain knocked out until the end of the mission or until they are woken up by guards. Hiding knocked out bodies in long grass or boxes will prevent guards from waking them up, and each enemy still knocked out when you finish the mission will award you bonus experience. There are 5 difficulties in the game, the easiest being Civilian, which is very easy. Enemies are almost deaf to your footsteps and the bullets do hardly any damage. The hardest mode in the game is Authentic, which will completely remove your HUD and aim assist. For the first time in a Sniper Elite game, there is now full crossplay between multiple different systems, so you can play with friends no matter what system they are playing on. It's also worth noting that crossplay can be turned off if you only want to play with people on the same platform as you. Now, I've not tried it myself, but Rebellion have said the whole game can be played crossplay, so I'm assuming that means multiplayer, survival, co-op campaign, invasion, the lot. Photo mode has now made its way into Sniper Elite 5. Now, I've never really used a photo mode in my life, so I can't really compare it to any others that are out there. But I mean, photo mode is there and you can make some cool photos. There's lots of different options to modify your photo and stuff, but I did notice that photo mode isn't available during the kill cam, which I thought was a bit meh. But I mean, I know a lot of people have been asking for photo mode, so it's great to see it in there. There are plenty of accessibility options to play around with, including text colour and size. They've got 3 different colourblind modes. There's lots of aim assist options with sensitivity and snap to target options. You've got dynamic range, motion blur, binocular distortion options. They even have 3 different controller layouts, and the same 3 again, but for left-handed users. Now, I don't claim to know much about accessibility, but I do know it's something Rebellion is starting to take seriously, so it's great to see all these features implemented to allow more and more people to play the game, because ultimately, that is what we want. We want the Sniper Elite community to grow. There are 27 skills in the game that can be unlocked, from basic skills like carrying more items to more interesting skills like being able to revive yourself. The gun customization in the game is fantastic, though perhaps not historically accurate. Rebellion have opted this time to let us fiddle and tinker with all aspects of our weapons and just to have fun with it. There are tons of different attachments to unlock in the game, including bayonets, night vision scopes, and even a scope that doesn't produce a glint. We are able to change the scope, barrel, muzzle, magazine, stock, foregrip, receiver, even the type of wood the gun is made of, all with different pros and cons. Rebellion have stated that taking all of these different possible attachment configurations into consideration, there are over 5 million different gun configurations in the game, which is insane. The game ships with 18 guns, that's 6 rifles, 6 secondaries and 6 sidearms. Though there are other weapons in the game you can pick up, such as the anti-tank rifle, the Panzerfaust and the MG42. Guns are unlocked by completing missions, and each mission also has a high value kill target. Killing this target in a specific way will unlock you another weapon. So for example, This officer here needs to be killed by crushing him with a chandelier to unlock the carabiner.
Got the drop on him. Armory.
Each mission has 3 workbenches for you to discover. Every time you discover a workbench, you will unlock a bundle of attachments. These workbenches also allow you to change your loadout mid-mission.
Nazis won't mind me borrowing munitions.
Customizing your weapons will change 4 main stats, which are power, fire rate, control and mobility. You are also able to view advanced stats of each weapon, which will break down each of the main stats to provide even more information. Each gun has an audible range that will change as you customize it. Any enemies within your audible range will hear the sound of your shot. Now, because it might be tricky remembering what your audible range is, there is a useful feature that will help you determine whether or not a soldier will hear your shot. When you aim at a tagged enemy, you will see a very faint, arguably too faint, exclamation mark above their head if they are within your gun's audible range, letting you know that they will hear the sound of your shot. The gun customization is a massive improvement over Sniper Elite 4's upgrade system. You can modify guns so much so that even if you are using the same gun as your friend, it will likely be very, very different. The customization really allows you to modify guns to fit your playstyle, and it's a lot of fun trying to find that perfect setup. The menus are nicely laid out and easy to navigate, and there is now a new and improved loadout screen in the game which allows you to customize different loadouts for each of the different modes separately from one another, which is a great addition. The shooting in the game feels great, be it sniping an enemy at 400 meters away or getting up close and personal with your trusty SMG. Now, it doesn't matter what system I'm playing on, I always prefer to use a controller. And whilst the controls are responsive, I will admit I'm not keen on having to press a button to switch shoulder. I really wish they kept it as a press of the analog stick like it was in Sniper Elite 4. Having to take my finger off the stick to switch shoulder is a pain. Now, my PC isn't the most powerful setup in the world, and I'm not really the best person to talk to about technical PC stuff. But I'm running the i7-4790K with a GTX 1070, and with VSync on I was able to run at a constant 60 frames per second with my graphics set to high on 1080p. And as you can see, the game looks incredible. The art team have done such a fantastic job. These graphics are a huge improvement over Sniper Elite 4, which is to be expected, I guess, as that game is now 5 years old, but I can only imagine how this game looks in 4K. Rebellion have repeatedly gone on about how they've used photogrammetry in the game, which is basically a process where they take hundreds of photos of an item, be it a tank, sandbags, buildings, literally anything. Then they load these images into a program, and they are then able to create assets based on these photos. Now, that's obviously the short version of photogrammetry, and a hell of a lot of work goes into it, but I think we can all agree photogrammetry is a real game changer and has taken the art of Sniper Elite 5 to the next level. I didn't really experience too many graphical glitches except for the odd texture pop in here and there. The game for the most part runs really smoothly and looks fantastic. Now, I'm not sure how this will look and run on older generation systems like the PS4 and the Xbox One, but on PC, and I'm sure on PS5 and Xbox Series X, this game will look incredible. Running across these huge maps is an absolute joy as everything just looks so nice. I often find myself standing in the room just admiring all the little details. The animations for the most part are very good, with just a few glitches here and there that I expect will be ironed out fairly soon. Like meleeing people on the stairs, for example, can be a bit weird. The sound of the guns in Sniper Elite 5 are very impressive. The developers have recorded the sounds of more guns in Sniper Elite 5 than in all other Sniper Elites combined, and it really shows. There are lots of different conversations happening all around the map for you to eavesdrop on, and the voiceover by Tom Clark-Hill for Carl is top notch.
Operation Kraken could win the Nazis the war. We have more information than London does, and every second we waste following protocol helps the enemy.
The music in the game can do a really great job of creating a tense atmosphere. Then combine that with the boom of a naval cannon, it scared the absolute crap out of me at one point. The music in the game is good, and when paired with the ambient sounds of trees blowing in the wind or guns going off in the background, it goes a long way to helping to create an atmosphere that complements the rest of the game perfectly.
Na los, wir sind hier leichte Ziele. Wir müssen die Vorräte in den Bunker bringen. Ich will nicht den ganzen Tag hier sein.
Survival mode makes its return, and the structure is pretty much the same as before. You and up to 3 of your friends can match yourself against 12 increasingly harder waves of enemies, whilst trying your best to defend 4 command posts from being taken by the Nazis. Currently there are only 3 survival maps available to choose from, but of those 3 maps, each one has 4 operations, which is basically 4 different variations to the layout of the command posts. A command post is a small area of the map that will generate supplies such as ammo and equipment. Once enemy units enter it, you have a certain amount of time to clear all the enemies from it, otherwise you will lose the command post. If one post is lost, it doesn't end the game, but it will stop it from generating any more supplies. After every 3 waves, a new command post will unlock, and you will be tasked with defending that one instead. Once you've successfully defended a command post for 3 waves, you no longer have to defend that command post. You will instead move on to the next. Your game of survival will auto-save after every new command post is unlocked, so basically every 3 waves will create a checkpoint, allowing you to restart from there if you die, instead of starting over from wave 1. It all starts out fairly easily as normal infantry start to attack your command post, but it isn't long before snipers and tanks start showing up and all hell breaks loose. The game will tell you how many enemies there are remaining in your current wave, and when they are down to their last 5 units, they will become tagged on the map. Leaving the final enemy alive, like maybe a sniper way off in the distance or an armoured car, is still a viable tactic to give you a chance to search bodies and better prepare your defence ready for the next wave. The skills for survival are the same as the skills for campaign, and any skill points you unlock you are able to spend in both skill trees. So if you have accumulated 15 skill points in campaign, you would have also accumulated 15 skill points in survival, and vice versa. Any weapons and attachments unlocked by playing campaign are carried over to survival. Now I've only played it in solo so far, as I couldn't find any games to join, but survival fans from Sniper Elite 4 will feel right at home here.
More hostiles incoming. Get ready.
The inclusion of the 4 operations to change the location of the command post will go a long way to adding replayability to survival mode. Personally, I would have liked to have seen an endless survival option to allow us to progress further than just the 12 waves, but unfortunately that is not the case. New to Sniper Elite 5 is Invasion Mode, which allows you to invade or be invaded by another player during a single player or co-op campaign. If you are invading, you will spawn randomly around the map and will be tasked with locating and taking out the allied sniper. You are able to tag any German AI around the map, and if any of those tagged AI spot the allied sniper, then their location will be revealed to you. The sound of the allied sniper's gunfire will also give away their position, and is a great way to figure out which direction you need to go. There are also phones around the maps that all players can use to reveal the current location of the other player. When using these phones to detect another player, they will receive a message saying their location has been compromised, allowing them to act accordingly. Once you use them, these phones have a cooldown before you can use them again, and overusing them will compromise your own position. The other player will become notified once they have been tagged, be it by your binoculars or through your scope, and seeing as tags are now automatic, When you spot someone, it's all about trying to kill them without accidentally tagging them first and letting them know that you see them. And most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, the winning shot in Invasion will trigger a kill cam. Unfortunately, the player being invaded is able to kick the invading player whenever they feel like it, which I'm not a fan of. Now, it's important to note that Invasion mode is completely optional and you are able to turn it off. If you turn it on, I don't think you should be able to kick the invader. I had a game where I was invading, I had the allied sniper pinned down and he knew he was pretty screwed. So instead of trying to kill me, he just kicked me instead. So yeah, I'm not a fan of being able to kick the invader. If you don't want to be invaded, just turn Invasion mode off. Now you might think that Invasion mode will just turn every match into a 1v1 sniper battle every time, but that isn't the case. Sure, often when invading another player, that will be the case, but not always. One game I had spawned me right in the middle of loads of my troops all on yellow alert, which made for a very different experience. I basically just ended up advancing with all my troops towards the allied player, taking on the role of a normal grunt. It kind of reminded me of Star Wars Battlefront, if I'm honest. So your experience with Invasion mode will vary depending on what's currently happening when you join the game. Now, Invasion mode won't be for everybody, and I get that, but I think everybody should at least give it a try, and if you want all the achievements, then you will have to give it a little go. The invading player has their own unique Axis Sniper skill tree with all perks already unlocked. Now, the invading player does not get to use focus mode, but instead has an ability called Stay Sharp, which will raise the awareness of nearby AI, which will increase their spotting speed. When invading another player's campaign, you are not notified if it is a single player campaign that you've invaded or a co-op campaign, so keep that in mind when invading. And when being invaded, it completely changes the dynamic of the game. You really need to stop what you're doing and shift your attention onto turning the hunter into the hunted, because it will be very easy for the invader to sneak up on you whilst you are busy taking out enemy soldiers. Now, you may think the odds are stacked heavily in the invader's favour, but from my experience that isn't necessarily the case. If you just be sure to shift your focus to the invading player as soon as they join, you will have every chance of winning the duel. Getting invaded and having an enemy at the gate style showdown is a thing of genius, especially as this is a sniper game after all. It's a real thrill and one that has truly sunk its claws into me, and I absolutely love it. But as great as Invasion mode is, there's a few missing features that I would have liked to have seen. First would be an option to be able to invade friends, for obvious reasons, and the other would be an option to choose difficulty, because at the present time, the difficulty of the invasion is set to the allied player's difficulty. Currently, if you want to invade only on authentic difficulty, then this is not possible. If you want to play Invasion mode, then you better get used to having that aim assist on, as most games I invaded had the aim assist turned on. This mode is exactly what Sniper Elite needed. Something completely different to really shake things up. Stalking your prey and trying to outsmart them is a thing of beauty, especially if you get matched up with someone of a similar ability to your own. I absolutely adore the thrill of the hunt in Invasion mode, and it's absolutely my favourite feature that Sniper Elite has ever added to one of their games. I cannot think of a game better suited to an Invasion mode than Sniper Elite, and Rebellion have pulled it off beautifully.
Was? Wo ist der hin? Zeig dich, du hinterhältiger Mistkerl. Komm raus.
I was unable to find any games of multiplayer, so unfortunately I'm not really able to comment on that side of it, but I will give a quick breakdown. Luckily, only when selecting custom match and free-for-all was I able to start a game by myself, which is lucky, so at least I can show you some footage of the maps. So multiplayer now supports up to 16 players instead of the previous 12, and there are 4 different multiplayer modes in the game. First is your standard team deathmatch, pitting 2 teams of 8 against each other. The next mode is free-for-all, which is 16 players just going at it against each other. No cross, which is similar to team deathmatch in that it has 2 teams of 8, but this time with an impassable barrier splitting the map in 2. Each team has their own half of the map and you cannot cross over to the other side. This mode is all about sniping and is a staple of the Sniper Elite multiplayer, so it's great to see that return. And the 4th and final mode is a new mode never before seen in Sniper Elite called Squad Match, which pits 4 teams of 4 against each other. There are currently only 5 maps in multiplayer, with Team Deathmatch, Free-for-all and Squad Match all sharing the same 4 maps, which are Trident Beachhead, Landing Zone, Alpine Resort and Industrial Complex. But unfortunately, No Cross only has 2 maps available, which are Trident Beachhead and another one called Urban Ruins. But as Urban Ruins is not available in free-for-all, I haven't been able to capture any footage of that particular map. Hopefully, if Sniper Elite 5 is anything like Sniper Elite 4, more multiplayer maps will be added further down the line free of charge. For the first time, multiplayer progression is separate from campaign progression, so any weapons and attachments you unlock in campaign will all need to be unlocked again in multiplayer. All of the weapons, equipment and skins in multiplayer are unlocked by increasing your multiplayer rank, and all the attachments are unlocked by completing various challenges, which mostly involve getting X amount of kills in various ways. There are 27 multiplayer skins to unlock in the game, which is great to see, and the only customization available is in choosing which of the different headgear you wish to wear alongside it. Multiplayer now has specializations, which are kind of like classes, which give you access to specific skill trees with various perks depending on which specialization you pick. The 5 specializations are Sniper, Medic, Scout, Assault and Engineer. Now everybody always has access to the Sniper skill tree, and once you reach rank 5 you're able to pick another class to go alongside it. Now unfortunately though, because I was unable to find any games of multiplayer, I was unable to reach rank 5 to check out the different perks from those 4 skill trees. A new feature added to the multiplayer mode are supply drops, which spawn in around the maps that contain special loot to fight over, including the elusive flare gun. But it's a shame I was unable to test multiplayer, but aside from the new squad match and supply drops, it's looking like business as usual for the multiplayer. It's just a shame we don't get a few more maps, but I am looking forward to giving it a proper go when the game launches. Now on to the negatives. First up, just a few niggles really, like certain foliage which should clearly conceal you but doesn't, and certain walls here and there that you can't jump over can get frustrating. At one point, all of my progress playing on Steam was reset. Now I don't think it was the fault of my PC, as I've never ever had a game on Steam reset itself like this did. But it reset everything. I lost all my progress, guns, attachments, medals, ribbons, everything was reset, as if I just started a fresh game for the first time. This was incredibly frustrating, but touch wood, since verifying my files on Steam, it has not happened since. Overwatch has been removed from Sniper Elite 5. I feel it was dropped to focus on invasion mode instead perhaps. It's a shame to see it go, but honestly it was probably the least played mode in the game, and if it was dropped in favour of invasion mode, even though I did enjoy Overwatch, I'm absolutely fine with it because I know I will play invasion mode a hell of a lot more than Overwatch. And one more thing I would have liked to have seen would have been a few more multiplayer and survival maps, but I'm sure there are plenty more planned for the future. And finally, there's no shooting range in the game at launch, but if I remember correctly, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they're working on releasing one fairly soon.
Like clockwork.
Now, no game is perfect, and Sniper Elite 5 is no exception. The biggest negative in the game would have to be the enemy AI. Sometimes it's great, you know, especially when enemies are doing things like flanking your position, for example. But I've had many instances where the AI does something incredibly dumb, like just running straight past me as if I'm not even there, or continuing to talk to their friend who I've just shot. I really hope that when they inevitably sit down to discuss Sniper Elite 6, that the enemy AI is at the top of their to-do list. So in conclusion, Sniper Elite 5 doesn't reinvent the wheel, but what it does do is improve on almost every single aspect of the previous Sniper Elite. The use of photogrammetry has made the game look absolutely beautiful, and it really feels as though you are running around World War II France. New features such as the first person aiming has been well implemented, and the sheer scale of gun customization is fantastic. The increase in map size is very welcome and makes exploring the maps that much more enjoyable. The addition of invasion mode though is easily my favourite feature, and I will most likely be spending most of my time just playing that. The game does suffer from a couple of negatives, but nothing too major, mainly just the AI acting a bit dumb on occasion and the limited number of multiplayer maps. But that aside, Sniper Elite 5 is a fantastic addition to the series and a huge improvement over its predecessor, with gameplay that's nicely polished and runs great. I believe Sniper Elite gets better and better with each game released, and I can confirm that that trend continues with Sniper Elite 5. It has quickly become my favourite Sniper Elite game, and I thoroughly recommend it. I just want to say a huge thank you once again to Rebellion for supplying me with an early review copy. You really have made my year. Now if you want to win a copy of the game for yourself, it's really simple. All you have to do is head over to Twitter, search for Brutal Barracuda, and you will see this picture pinned at the top of my profile. All you have to do is simply like that picture to be entered into the giveaway. You have until the end of June, and the winner will be picked at random, and I will contact them via Twitter. You are not required to follow me to be entered into the giveaway, but any follows are appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It really does help the channel to grow. This is a dedicated Sniper Elite channel, so hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date on all things Sniper Elite, and I will see you guys in the next video!
Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.